Thank you guys for joining me back here on the Chip Shot Football Podcast to now look ahead to the weekend and talk about some of the upcoming games that we have here in Week 7 in the NFL. We got part 1 today. We're going to split it up again because I just feel like time's sake wise, it gives us enough time to look at each game and not feel rushed to try and get through the entire slate. So part 2 will be in tomorrow's show before we shut it all down for the weekend. So getting into part 1 and looking at the first slate of games that I have on here, as you see on your screen, we have 6 matchups on here and a lot of the big time matchups, right? I think I have both of the most exciting games on here. So we're going to start off with one of them, that being the Houston Texans traveling to Green Bay and taking on the Packers, two of the best young, exciting, talented teams, two of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL right now in both of these squads. They both have great records. One's 4-2, the other one is 4-1 without their bye week. So it's going to be an exciting game. I think it has a lot of star power, obviously, right? You're talking about Jordan Love and CJ, like I said, Stephon Diggs, Jalen Reed, Romeo Doubs, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, a lot of household names, and most of them, like I only mentioned, are on offense, but Xavier McKinney has been a stud so far, Jair Alexander, obviously, Preston Smith, Kenny Clark, and on the Houston side as well, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, Kamari Lassiter, Jalen Petrie. There's stars everywhere on both of these rosters. It's going to be an awesome game, and Green Bay is starting to kind of put things together. We're starting to see their potential last week against the Cardinals and even a little bit against the Rams with Jordan Love coming back from that injury. I think he's slowly getting back to the Jordan Love we saw towards the end of the year last year, which is a great sign for them. And the Texans, they've just looked unstoppable on offense regardless, but I think with Joe Mixon coming back and without having Nico Collins, you'd want to have everybody, but I think Joe Mixon certainly being back has made them look a lot more well-balanced and a lot more potent on offense, more dynamic, really, knowing that they could run the ball very well and pass it as well. But I'm going to go with Green Bay in this game. I'm going to go with the Packers because they're at home, so I think they play a lot better there. But also Houston lost pretty convincingly to a fellow NFC North team in the Minnesota Vikings, which the Packers played pretty well against. And I know a lot of different factors go into each matchup, but also I feel like the Texans are going to be down Jimmy Ward. He's not quite ready to be back. He's one of their safeties. And, there's obviously going to be no Nico Collins in this game either. And you can certainly tell a little bit of a difference there when CJ has Nico out there and he really trusts him, it seems like, the most out of anybody, than when he's not out there, right? It's not to say that he has a bad relationship with Stephon or Tank, but I just feel like he trusts Nico Collins, and him not being out there, I think it kind of throws some things off. It doesn't look quite 100% like you would expect. So I like the Packers in this game. Their defense is very underrated. I think Xavier McKinney, I just briefly mentioned him, I think he polices things back there in the secondary as good as anybody right now. He leads the NFL in interceptions, so that's a guy that they have to look out for, and I think they're just going to be able to edge out the Texans in this game. So the Texans will fall to 4-2, if I'm not mistaken, and the Packers will go to 5-2 on the year. Then, just moving down the line here, down one row, we got the New York Jets traveling to the Pittsburgh Steelers in what could be, or what actually is, Davante Adams' debut, probably, and what could be Russell Wilson's debut as well. Adams, his first game with the Jets this week could potentially be on Sunday Night Football after they just suffered another loss. He could come in right away and save their season with a great performance. I'm very much prepared for that emotionally and just as a analyst, I guess you could say, being a fan of the Steelers and just trying to be unbiased. It feels like it's so typical how the Jets have not really been convincing. Then, of course, the week that they're playing the Steelers, Davante Adams decides to come in, and I wouldn't be surprised if this offense looks completely like we've never seen them at all this year. I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron goes out there and throws for like 3 touchdowns, probably all to Davante Adams, Devontae has like 120 yards. This offense is moving up and down the field like they're in training camp or something. Not to discredit the Steelers, but I've seen this game, this story kind of play out too many times for me to go into this game. I'm still wanting the Steelers to win, but I've seen this movie too many times where things just fall perfectly in line for the other team, and yeah, to think that the Jets are not going to look completely different and that Rodgers isn't going to improve a lot with having his guy back there, I'm not going to make that mistake again. I will not do it. I will not give myself the false hope. The Steelers are going to have a chance, I believe, in this game, but to come out and win the game, I feel like this is set up perfectly for the Jets and also the Steelers. I wasn't a big fan of kind of half-weighing it with their quarterbacks, right? If you say that Justin, I mean, they didn't say that Justin was their starter, but if Justin's 4-2 in 1 year, or in the first 6 games of the season, and he's doing pretty well, not doing anything to really lose the job, and then you want to kind of edge Russell Wilson in there and see what you have in him. I don't really like half-weighing things like that, especially at the quarterback position. So I feel like that's going to be just getting in the way of everything for the Steelers. So I'm going to go with the Jets in this one. They certainly need it more because if they fall to 2-5, it's going to be really bad for them on Monday. So they're going to get the win. Probably a close game nonetheless in Pittsburgh with a very lively crowd there for the Steelers to see if they can beat the Jets in this game. So that'll be a great game as well on Sunday Night Football, but I'm going to go with the Jets. Then this next game, again down one row, is a very fascinating one to me because I feel like it could have a lot of consequences for the Jaguars if they don't win this game. It's Drake May's second start over there in London. We have another early game, another full day of football from 9:30 in the morning to about like 11:30 at night, which is awesome. And Drake May in the first game, it looks like they got destroyed 41-21, but I think looking at the game, the storyline of the scoreboard says one thing, but if you look at Drake May, the way that he played, that offense looked as good as it has in any of the games that they played with Jacoby Brissett. And I wasn't a big fan of it, like I let you guys know on here, to bring in Drake May this early, but they've reaped the benefits already after 1 week. So what I didn't like is starting Drake May. What I like even less is pulling him and sitting him in the same season. That would be really, really bad. But it doesn't look like it's heading towards that way. Drake May played very well in their last game, despite them losing by 30 points, right? But still, this Patriots team, has, I won't say that they're good on offense because their offensive line isn't very good. And outside of a couple guys that they have on offense, it isn't great. But those guys that they do have, I really like DeMario Douglas. Hunter Henry is a decent option at tight end. And Ramondre Stevenson started off really well. Then he had a fumble problem, so he has to really take care of that. But if that's really the thing that you're worried about and he could just hold on to the ball, he's not a bad running back either. And if they're going to be run heavy with what Drake May has shown you, now you're coming into this game and facing a Jaguars defense that's giving up the most yards passing in the NFL and that has given up the second most points per game to everybody except the Panthers, who are at 33 points per game, and the Jaguars are almost giving up 30 points per game. The way that Drake May looked, why couldn't he go out there and try and dice up this very permeable Jaguars defense? I don't think that's very crazy to say, especially with how the Jaguars have looked pretty inconsistent all year, and their bad pass defense, like I mentioned. They were very fortunate to beat the Indianapolis Colts. They almost gave up that lead that they have, but in other games against the Bills, where they just got destroyed, and against the Browns, where they didn't get destroyed, but they only put up 13 points, and only gave up 18 and still lost, obviously. Both of those really stand out, and I don't think it's crazy for the Patriots to come in here playing the best offense that they have all year to at least make it a contest. And if I'm going to go outside the lines here, I think I'm going to go with the Patriots in this game. I think they could surprise a couple people. Drake May, they're going to have to win their second game eventually, right? And I don't know what other teams they play this year. Maybe they'll play the Panthers to get their second win if it's not this game. But they're not just going to finish with one win. Drake May's too good. or has looked too good for that to be the case. So I think this could be it. I think they could win their second game here, and the Jaguars, could fall into a very bad spot with that being the case. So give me the Patriots in this game. Then on the other side, the Titans and the Bills, as one-sided as it could get. I'm sorry, but there's not really too much of a discussion to have. The Bills are going to win this game in Buffalo. Amari Cooper's debut, you don't think he's going to score at least one touchdown? He's probably going to score two, and that place is going to go bananas. And this game could get a little ugly for the Titans with Will Levis. Hasn't really been so convincing, and they're already 1-4. I feel like this one has loss written all over it for the Titans, so I'm going to go with the Bills. It's going to be a great debut for Amari Cooper. It's going to click right away, and on Monday we're going to be talking about the Bills, how they're like the best team in the AFC, right there with the Ravens. So I'm already predicting it. I'm already seeing it happen the following day. Then we're going to talk about also the Eagles and the Giants, and while it seems like it should be very one-sided, I wouldn't be so quick to just make that judgment. Yes, the biggest story is Saquon going back to New York, the Saquon revenge game. And while I am leaning towards the idea that Saquon's going to go off for like 2 touchdowns at least, I would be lying to say that this Eagles offense really fills me with confidence. I don't really feel that about them thus far. They've been really disappointing and just underwhelming. To have so much talent like that and still not score a single point in the first quarter is insane. And it just goes back to the coaching, the level of preparedness that they are heading into these games. And the Giants defense, they're a little stingy, right? They're a little stingy to get down, right? They're leading the league in sacks. They gave the Bengals some trouble, and I don't think the Eagles would blow out the Bengals or even guarantee that they'd win against the Bengals. So, they're right there with them. They gave the Bengals some trouble. They gave the Cowboys some trouble, and I don't think the Eagles are that much better than the Bengals. So they're better than the Cowboys, but still, the Eagles' offense doesn't really fill me with too much confidence. But I'd be damned if I'm going to pick the Giants in this game. I just think it's too good for Saquon not to come back and just score 2 touchdowns. I'm a little nervous about it. I'm not going to lie, but the Eagles have too many weapons to lose this game. And the Giants have been in close games, but if the Eagles are the ones that lose to them in this game, a divisional game at best, or at least in this matchup between the both of them, if you think it's going to be bad for the Jaguars the next day, it's going to be maybe even worse for the Eagles the next day if they lose this game. So they better not lose this game. I'm going to go with the Eagles. Then one of the best games, or the best game in my opinion, this week is going to be between the Lions and the Minnesota Vikings, 2 of the best teams, certainly in the NFC, but also in the NFL, with 2 offenses that are hitting on all cylinders, both really able to run the ball, both have stars all over the place, like I mentioned with the Houston and Green Bay game. What will make the difference in this game, I believe, though, will be on the defensive side of the ball, much like the Green Bay and Houston game. Which side will be able to bend but not break completely? Which one gives up field goals instead of touchdowns? I think is going to be huge in this game. And for that reason, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. I think they stay undefeated. The loss of Aiden Hutchinson is going to hurt a lot more than I think a lot of people are really giving it credit to right now. So the Vikings defense has arguably been the best defense in the NFL, and I feel like they're very capable of bending and not breaking. And the Lions might be able to get into the red zone, but I feel like the Vikings can bunker down and just not allow them to cross the goal line, force them into passing situations, and that way I feel like the Lions defense is a little bit more permeable than the Vikings defense at this point. They're not really missing anybody that big. They're going to be at full strength, and we've already seen the Lions kind of be a bit inconsistent when it comes to the red zone. So I feel like the Vikings have that window of opportunity there, and they could certainly take advantage of it. This game being at home as well, I like the Vikings' chances in this one. So that's all the games that we have in part 1. Come back tomorrow to talk about part 2 and the rest of the games on Sunday. But for right now, we're going to go into our next break, and when we return, we got a discussion again to talk about. this time being about the teams that need to win in Week 7. I kind of just talked about a couple of them in this segment, but we have a couple more to talk about why they absolutely need to win this game or suffer the consequences if they happen to lose. That'll be coming up in just a few seconds. Don't go anywhere.